This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk about bass fishing. Recorded show this morning. I'm out on a local area lake filming an episode of Let's Fish TV, so be on the lookout for that. Yesterday we had a really good show, and I didn't know that Monday's guests and today's guests were buddies, but they are. We had Bo Browning on 16th in the Bassmaster Open EQ points, kind of talking about his journey as a standout high school fisherman who then went to Drury and then apparently created the transfer portal and then went to Montevallo, where today's guest went and has literally lit the bass fishing world on fire as a 21-year-old. And that is Easton Fothergill, who most recently won the Bassmaster Open on Lake Eufaula with a 52-pound, 8-ounce effort after 3 days. It probably included, well, I mean, unless you catch one to win a classic like that, it's harder. I don't think you can top a live fish catch. I'll bring Easton in. Easton, thanks for jumping on BTO.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So day 3, you fall. It's a little grimy out there. You're catching them. You're struggling. FS, Fox Sports, live on air, and you caught an 8 3/4 pounder out of a fishery that'd been like 1 6-pounder caught the whole previous tournament on the final day to give you a stranglehold to win the Bassmaster Open and send you back to the Classic for consecutive years. Is that kind of how it went?
That's exactly how it went. Yeah, I think I had one fish when I caught that one, and I was kind of struggling, honestly. I was running all the stuff I ran the previous 2 days in the tournament, and it just was not panning out. I was not seeing what I needed to see. So I was running down. I was gonna go back to my starting area, and just a light bulb went off. Like, hey, like this looked right in practice. Let's roll in here and see what's going on. And yeah, first cast, I caught that big one.
Did you see it, or was it an area cast? Like yesterday with Bo, we talked about like how there's 5 types of scopers. There's power scopers, minnow pingers, structure scopers, perspective scopers, and smallmouth scopers. And then there's subcategories under each.
In this tournament, I was definitely a power scoper. I was covering lots of water with it. So
did you see, were you like, that's a carp? Were you just casting to a target? Like, did you know that there was an 8 3/4 pound bass down there when you hooked the thing?
So I put the troller down, and my deal all week was you had to be around as much shad as possible, like enough shad to where it was hard to even like see what you're doing. And I went there was a wall of shad in about 15 feet. And as soon as I got inside that shad, I looked over onto that little point, and it was just a school of probably 10 of them, like perfectly on that little rock ledge. And that's what I casted at when I caught that 8-pounder.
So there was 10 that size down there, or just 10 big ones? You think the biggest one ate it, or do you think you could have done a 40 rack there if they hadn't moved?
That one had to be the biggest one there. To think there's an even bigger one sitting there, that'd be crazy. But no, when they're that close to bottom, it's hard to tell size. But I could just tell that there was roughly 10 or so fish on that little rock vein there. So that's what I was casting at when I caught that big one.
Did you know it was a bass, or like at what point did you know like this is my tournament?
When it launched like 4 feet out of the water, that's when I got kind of confirmation, like we need to make this one count. Like this will put me right back into it. That sort of deal.
What were you throwing? Like talk me through your setup on that, because it seemed like you were pretty dang confident that you were going to land that thing. I would have been losing my mind, and I've been doing this like literally twice as long as you've been alive.
So I was using a spinning rod all week long. My main bait was a Nico rig. It didn't really matter what worm I was throwing. It seemed like it just mattered. It needed to have a heavy weight to fall fast to get a reaction strike from the fish. But I was just 8-pound line all week to a 12-pound leader, and I was using a number 1 Ryogi Tailsman hook, And then, yeah, just it didn't really matter. Like I said, the worm, just making sure it had a fast fall rate.
All right, we're watching it right here. We don't have any audio on it, so you can talk us through this. But like, there's the hookup right there. So at this point right here, Easton, is where you're looking like you made the cast right there, and you're looking like you're casting somewhere out in this area right here, because you could tell that there was something down there. But it wasn't like, oh my gosh, that's a giant. It was just like, there's something there that I'd like to explore.
Yeah, there was just I just knew there was a school of bass there. I wasn't like, oh, that's a giant one. Let's catch this one, that sort of thing. I just knew there was some fish there.
Hard bite? Like, did he just load up?
I did not have a hard bite all week long. They just kind of load up and start swimming off with it.
Okay, right there. This is where it gets Western. Watch this. Oh my gosh. So it's kind of out of the screen, but watch this again.
You can watch them.
That's an 8 3/4 pounder that just shamoos out of the water on 8-pound test.
Oh,
so
that was awesome.
You're still 21, right?
I'm 22 now.
Oh, you're 22 now.
22.
You must have just had a 22. So, I mean, is your heart just beating at this point?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I knew that was my tournament right there. It could possibly be my tournament after the slow morning I was having. So, yeah, and it was taking me for a ride. It was trying to dive under the boat. I don't know why it was doing that, but
because it ain't 3/4 pounder.
You kept trying to swim by the big motor, which obviously would have been a bad deal if that happened. But yeah, I had to chase him down twice with the trolling motor.
Could you tell, did you see during the jumper at any point like that you had him pegged, or were you worried about how you had him hooked?
He shook my worm, and it was all happening so fast I couldn't actually see the hook, but it ended up being like perfectly right in the corner of his mouth, right where you want it. So,
all right. And now, so you're trying to so he's going under the boat, and you pulled the boat so it wasn't back over him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like, yeah, it was a very smooth scoop, just a straight scoop. Look at that scoop. Just like you're delivering a pizza to a table. Boom. Okay, there is a moment. Now I do. Let's see if I can pull. Look at that moment right there. That's the oh my gosh moment right there. Had you seen anything even remotely close to that big in practice?
I caught one 5-pounder, but that thing could eat a 5-pounder. So,
holy cow!
No, I was just completely shocked that that happened.
As tough as it was in the position you were in, I mean, you kind of knew that was probably going to be the winning fish, right?
I knew if I could just get 3 more keepers, I would have a dang good shot at it. A fish of that caliber and that tough of a tournament.
So I'm trying to think what could top that. Have you ever? I mean, I've assumed that's the number one fish catch of your life so far.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt.
The only thing that could top that would be either a last-minute fish catch to win an elite series or to win a classic.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's
the biggest fish you've weighed in a tournament ever.
I caught a 9-1 on the final day of Okeechobee. That was also on live. So at the first Open of the year.
Wow.
So my top 2 PBs are both on Bass Live now, which is kind of crazy. As
a 22-year-old. I had to lead with that because that was an epic fish. There was a 9-pounder caught in a tournament last month, or I guess earlier this month. I have no idea how that fish was caught too, but like for Eufaula, Easton, that's a freaking tank, especially on a fishery that has just had Nichols, Toyota, local tournaments, and then got hammered with 7 days of Bassmaster Open pressure in a 199 boat field.
Yeah, I still can't believe that happened. It's crazy. It's just one of those deals that was meant to be. That's the only thing I can say about it.
Based in Oklahoma here, I'm in the studio in Shawnee right now, about an hour and 20 minutes from Eufaula. A lot of Oklahoma anglers that listen to BTL. Just kind of break down your thoughts of Lake Eufaula in eastern Oklahoma, 100,000 acre fishery. You're from Grand Rapids, Minnesota, but you fished all over the place. What you thought about Eufaula, how you kind of put your pattern together, and then how you ended up coming out of here with the trophy, besides the 8 3/4 pounder.
Yeah, so I rode out of the marina where we took off for the tournament the first day of practice, and I saw the orange water right in front there. I knew that whatever they call that bank right there, that super community bank.
Release bank?
Yeah.
Eufaula Cove?
I thought about starting there, but I saw the watercolor. I was like, no, we're not doing this, at least not to start. So then I ran down by the dam, which is typically where the clearest water is on most lakes. And as soon as I got into that big, where you go through the narrows there and it opens up, and it got way clearer, and I was just like, okay, I can do this in here. Like, I'm just a guy coming from Minnesota. I'm always going to gravitate towards the cleanest water I can find. That's just the way I am, the way I'm wired. So, but I went down there, started idling around a little bit, ended up finding some good rock right away. But it didn't take long. I got a couple bites, nothing special, barely keepers. And then as the days went on, I ended up dialing in exactly what the recipe was. My recipe ended up being, my best spots were underwater rock bluffs. They would dump from like 10 or 12 down to like 25, like really quick, like a legit wall. And then they'd be cruising those right where it crests. They'd be cruising those groups of 1 to 5, 6, 7. But I ended up having 8 or 10 spots like that. Some of them were 100 yards long. Some of them were legit like half a cast long, like little tiny spots. And those were the best ones because those are ones that didn't show up on a map. And, because of that, guys were ignoring it or didn't find it. So, but that was my deal. I was rotating those throughout the day. And then day one of the tournament, I actually stumbled on this dock that had a giant school of bass under it, like 40 fish. And, I don't know what made me go up to this dock, but I did, and I went up there, and even after I saw those fish on my scope, I didn't think they were bass just because of how many there was. There's lots of carp and stuff under those docks. But I was just something told me like, hey, those look like bass. Let's get a cast at them. So I whipped my Nico under there, skipped under there, and it sunk like a foot, and they just rocketed up to it. The whole school doing backflips over my Nico rig. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I set the hook. It was a 3.5 pounder, and I threw back in there, caught a 3-pounder. And then that one ended up pulling the whole school out. I saw one like 6 follow my 3-pounder. And after that, it was all messed up. But I was just
visually
like, wow.
Saw it, like laid eyes on the 6, or just saw it on?
Yeah, he was trying to take the Nico out of my 3-pounder's mouth.
Oh my gosh. Were you shaking?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Crazy bad. But after that, they're all messed up and they're all goofy and didn't want to bite. So I left it, ended up going back a couple times, and they did set back up under there. But I was just catching like 2.25, trying to get the big ones. And I just could not get myself in that tough of a fishery to burn all those 2-pounders that I might need the next day to try to get another big one. So I left that dock, and then I went there on day 2. And first 5 minutes, I jump off a 5 or 6-pounder off that dock. And then like 10 minutes later, I break one off. I made a dumb cast, and I shouldn't have left it in there. I knew if I got a bite, I'd probably break it off. And sure enough, it starts swimming off. I set the hook, and it goes, boom, breaks off. So after that, school got all weird, and I couldn't get them to go the rest of the day. So that was kind of a bummer. And then day 3, the final day, I went back there, and they were gone. So
how many of the fish in the first 2 days? You ended the second day, you were 5 ounces off of the lead. You went 17-12 the first day, 16-11 on the second day. How many of those came off of the Magic Dock?
I weighed 2 off at day 1, and then I actually ended up weighing 0 off at day 2.
Oh, so it had. Oh, that's wild. So you could have, in all theory, blown this thing out like by a lot.
If I got that 5 or 6-pounder, that I jumped off on day 2 because I weighed a 180 on day 2, so I should have had 3 or 4 more pounds.
Yeah, so 2. It wasn't like just roll up. Like this was a grinder tournament even for you.
The first day, I think I caught 15 keepers. Day 2, I think I caught 8 or so. And then the last day, I caught 5 all day.
Wow. So after day 1, I would like to point out 2 Minnesota anglers in the top 3. The legendary, is a pull-up, Jim Moyna came in with a 19.5 sack, and then you were in 3rd. And then we'll throw Andrew Loberg in there. He's a California dude. So all 3 of you guys, very familiar with grass fishing. What do you think it was that allowed you in grass fishing in Minnesota to have such success in a muddy clay and rock driven fishery where the only grass in it was a little bit of water willow that was just there because of the high water? But I mean, there's where you were fishing, there is not a stitch of grass. Like you can drag whatever you want anywhere you want on this thing. There's no silt, there's nothing. I mean, it's just clean rock.
I would say there is lots of smallmouth, and they did kind of set up on rock like smallmouth do at home.
Really?
In a way. I mean,
Really?
there's tons of giant boulders out there, and
Yep.
some of my fish I caught in practice would sit on top of the boulder like smallmouth do at home, which was kind of interesting to me. But
So you felt comfortable on Eufaula once you started getting bit, even though it was a complete foreign body of water.
yeah, and I credit that mostly to going to school down south the last 4 years.
Yep.
I've seen lots of water like that in that area, but I would say coming straight from Minnesota going there, it would have taken, I don't think I would have got dialed in near as fast.
Would you have felt bad if you'd beaten Moina by an ounce with that big one on the final day?
Maybe a little bit.
I mean, I've had him on the show before, and he's been a top 5 BTL guest. Like Jim Moina is like royalty up there in Minnesota, is he not?
Yeah, no, everyone looks up to Jim. He's been doing it for so long, and he's had a heck of a career for sure.
It was. I was really happy to see it. Now on day 2, he was in the sit down seat, and I saw him dragging it like 1, and I was like, things don't look like they're going too good for Jim today. Sure enough, but hell, still cashed a check. Still did a good job for that tournament. But yeah, so 5 bites on the final day, and all your fish come on a Nico.
So the first 2 days, all 10 that I weighed came on Nico, and then the last day I caught my first 3 keepers on Nico, and it was about 1 o'clock, and it just was not happening. I ended up bailing, and I went shallow with a chatterbait, some wind-blown bars and points, and that's how I caught my last 2 keepers.
Something you done in practice, or is this just is this like a Jordan Lee move where it's just it looked good and it seemed easy in my head, so I went and did it?
That was kind of my safety valve. I did find it in practice. It was it was kind of my backup keeper hole kind of deal that I did find in practice, and the wind just happened to be blowing the same exact direction that it was in practice over that point where they were schooled up. So,
all right, let's go through the last, how many months would you say? 12, 16 months? Like, when did all this whole thing start where you like burst onto the scene? You're fishing at Montevallo. You've done some other podcasts. There's some articles out there, but just a runabout to give people an idea of what the last 16 months of your life is about. You catch them. You've always caught them. Bartuzek is like, oh, he always catches them. Fothergill shows up with 25 pounds. And, but it started right at the classic, or right at the bracket last year, right?
Yeah.
When this whole kind of crazy whirlwind started.
Yeah, that's definitely what launched all this. That bracket tournament changed my life for sure. Just throwing me into the opens and also the classic, which the opens would not be possible for me without winning that tournament. I was not financially able to do it, at least for the next couple of years. I was planning on having to work a couple of years, kind of get my footing under me before doing the opens. I would have got there eventually, but that bracket tournament definitely just sped everything up. So I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, winning that bracket and then getting me to the classic was definitely life-changing, and yeah, it's been a heck of a ride for sure.
Long story short, didn't you make the bracket and then have a brain abscess and then have to fish the bracket like barely able to stand up?
Yeah, so my college partner Nick Dumke and I, we won Team of the Year in the Bassmaster College Series. That's what qualified us for the bracket, and we were actually fishing the national championship on Pickwick when that whole deal happened, where I had like incredibly bad headaches, and then shortly after that tournament I went back to school, and that's where I got went to the doctor and threw me into surgery, emergency brain surgery, and then I got cleared just about a week or so before the bracket. I was actually in Minnesota healing, so I get cleared, I bomb down to Alabama, get the truck and the boat, and then go back up to Kansas to fish that bracket tournament, which was after being cooped up for a couple of weeks after having that surgery. It was I was at 0 just sleeping on the couch, and then I was right back up to 100 traveling all over the place fishing tournaments. So it definitely took a toll on my body. I could feel it fishing that bracket tournament. My legs were like unbearably sore just because I hadn't stood up in so long, and then I'm standing in waves and that sort of thing. But no, we made it happen, and I'm just super glad I got cleared in time to fish that tournament because, like I said, it changed my life.
Do you think that gave you some, like, looking back on it, some like perspective
on
life?
I don't. Yeah, every tournament morning now, like I take it to like I appreciate it at a whole nother level. Like every sunrise I get to see, like I appreciate everything in life so much more now.
So are you like cleared, healthy? Like, what's your health status?
Yeah, so That deal was just an infection in my brain, like a little pocket of, infection. And it's super rare. The doctors told me it's like 4 out of every million people get that infection. So it's like incredibly rare. But yeah, it's just an infection, and then they put me on antibiotics, and it's just like any other infection. It'll go away with antibiotics, and then you're good to go.
So clean bill of health now. You don't have to like do checkups or anything. It just was like a freak thing that happened at a crazy time in your life, and you're lucky that you had the right people around you and dealt with it, and the timing worked out the way it did. Because I mean, if that was a week later, like, you're not in the bracket.
Exactly. No, it all. I mean, terrible thing to happen, but it did happen at the perfect time. So.
And that was that at Milford.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Milford. I was actually, my college partner Nick, I was texting him during practice at Eufaula, like, dude, this looks exactly like Milford Lake, and it feels just like it fishes the same way. So it's kind of crazy how that works.
Milford is the toughest lake that I have ever fished a tournament on. Granted, we had a snowstorm in the Bass Nation Regional, and it was 70 the day before, but just as far as pressure, how they live, where they live, how you get them to bite, like, absolute grinder of a venue.
Yeah, just you explained it perfectly. It's not an easy place, and neither is Eufaula, but those are the ones that I love, those types of tournaments where you have to be mentally strong, and you have to be 100% focused all day, every day, and just make every bite count. Those are my favorite kinds of tournaments.
It also seems like those are two fisheries that have had severely low water, so a lot of the things that they use are, if you know how to find them, you can find them. So everyone can like find the cast on the spot, and you just go from spot to spot, and you're like, oh, there's someone on that foundation. There's someone on that rock. There's someone on that stump. Like, both of those fisheries are kind of the same. So there is a lot of similarities. I mean, I don't mean to insult Eufaula like that by calling it, saying that it's like Milford, but I think Eufaula has a little bit more upside, but I've heard Milford has them if you're there during the 1 week they decide to bite.
Yeah, exactly. But no, Eufaula, at least when they bite, they're normally a good one that'll actually tug on your line a little bit. So Eufaula was a lot of fun.
So you win the bracket challenge then, which gets you into the Bassmaster Classic, which is on Grand Lake in March, but you get the boat and the truck and the whole dynamic thing, right? Which gets you entries into all 9 of the Bassmaster Opens.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that. We've seen, Jordan Lee, we've seen a number of different anglers that have come through that and have gone on to have good careers, but that is something that Toyota, Dynamic, Bassmaster, that whole group for the last 10 years, I think is one of the coolest things for that college angler to set them up for success.
No, and I can't say it enough, how much it's definitely set me up for the future. And, anyone who wants to pursue this as a profession in life, it's definitely the biggest tournament that you can win, and it just leapfrogs you up. It gives you all the connections that you need in order to do it, and just everything that you need in order to fish for a living. This tournament will get you that, and it's just crazy. And it's like you said, it's so cool that Bassmaster does this for the college program, and allows the college kids to strive for that. But yeah, I can't believe I won it still. It's been almost a year later. Like, it's crazy.
School wise then, where are you at? Are you like graduated now? Or are you still, did you just graduate?
I graduated last May. Yeah. So, and I'm thinking I'm going to 5th year, but if I keep the train going, if I qualify for the elites, I'm going to back out. So we're just kind of playing it by ear there.
Did you see Seth's post the other day?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
What'd you think of that?
No, it's awesome. All the support from the Minnesota guys has been unreal.
Do you know him pretty well? Like, I mean, he basically posted that was like, looks like there'll be another Minnesota boy on the Elite Series. Like, welcome Easton, which you've got a lot to go. I mean, dude, this thing is, I don't want to put undue pressure, but that had to be kind of cool because, I mean, Seth is kind of the man.
No, he is the man. No, it's super cool, but like you said, we still have 4 tournaments left. A lot can happen, so I just gotta block all that out and just stay focused as much as I can. Keep doing the job.
We'll get to the coach talk later. I want to go back to this crazy timeline. So you get the boat and the truck. You've graduated last May. You had all this stuff happen. You made it. You're like, holy cow, I'm in the Classic. But now you have to fish a couple opens before the Bassmaster Classic. Talk about what your goal was going into the EQs in your first year and how you juggled getting the boat and the truck, and now you're fishing all these events before you even get to the Bassmaster Classic this year.
Yeah, so I remember that being super stressful. I mean, there's been so many events happening. It's all kind of a blur already, but I know I got the boat and the truck like a week before the Okeechobee Open, but I had a college event on Lake Murray the week before Okeechobee. So I remember I got the boat and literally headed out like the night before or the night after I got the boat to Lake Murray to fish a Bassmaster College event. Fished day one with my partner and had to leave the night after fishing day one. Drove from there to Okeechobee, which was like 9 hours. I think I rolled into Okeechobee at like 2 or 3 in the morning and started practice that week for Okeechobee and let Nick finish the tournament at Murray. He fished day 2 alone. But that's how all that started. Ended up having a really good event at Okeechobee. I think 7th place. And I think that tournament kind of is what, gave me the confidence that I can compete against the Opens guys. Because, it was on day one, I launched out between Brandon McMillan was in front of me and Randall Tharp was behind me during takeoff at the Open at Okeechobee. And I was just like, I don't know if I belong here, guys. Like, these guys are like those guys. And I was just like, I'd never competed against guys of that caliber. So going out that morning was just like, wow, like this is crazy.
Well, before that, you also top 5 the FLW or the MLF National Championship, and that was in Florida too. So you started that out in January, and then you had the 2 Open, and then you had the Classic, and then you had a really good Classic too, and made the final day of the Classic. What was that experience like?
The Classic was unreal. Like the feeling of, when they open the curtain and you go into the arena and just all the people, that's the best feeling I've ever felt in my life. Just, you don't realize how many people are at the Classic until you're on stage and you're like, all you see is people as far as you can see when you're standing on that stage. And that's a feeling that I was, after leaving that Classic, I was like, I need to do whatever it takes to make it back to that stage. And, we made that happen at Eufaula, which is, it's unbelievable. I can't believe it. But
how excited were you that you were able to make the final day? Because you had a rough first day on that, and then had a heck of a comeback. So you didn't have to go work the Toyota booth and the Bassmaster booth at the expo, which I'm sure probably made you a little bit happy. But you came in with over 17 pounds on the second day at Grand.
Mm-hmm. That tournament was super eye-opening to me because I had found an area that I thought it was going to go down, and like I was so confident in this area. And I went in there on day one, and the water had dropped a little bit, and for some reason it got way cleaner. Like it was super clear in there, and I fished around in there. Wasn't much happening, and I was actually just about to leave. I was going to check one more place and roll up to this place, and I catch a 5-pounder, and I was just like, well, now what do I do? Like I was about to leave and, run new water, but now I feel like I got to run back through everything. Maybe they're pulling up, the females are coming back. Ended up running through everything else really quick and ended up being a waste of time. That was just a fluke bite. Finally pulled the plug at about noon and made a couple of upgrades. But yeah, day one it's eye-opening in a tournament of that caliber. Everyone always says you got to keep an open mind and make the right adjustments. And normally I feel like I'm pretty dang good at that, but a tournament of that caliber, it's just that much harder to make those adjustments and just pull the plug and run new water. And day 2, that's exactly what I just said is what the game plan was. I ran new water basically all day long. Ended up finally stumbling on, really good fish at about noon or 1. I caught a 4 and a 5 and a 3.5 back to back.
Holy cow! Power scoping?
It was on a boat ramp actually.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it was a boat ramp with a jerkbait. They were kind of schooled up on there, and I was super excited after finding that late in the day. I was going to go back on day 3 and really expand on it. And I went back in there on day 3 because all the leaders went out in front of me, and I was riding to my spot. I drove by Adam Rasmussen. I was in 2nd, and Coop Gallant was sitting on my spot. He was in 6th, I think. And then just beyond him, I could see Justin Hamner. And I was just like,
you're like, yeah, I'm going to go find somewhere else to fish.
Exactly. I didn't fish where I caught the fish. Obviously, I kind of stayed out of the way and kind of fished around a little bit. Like maybe I'll stumble on something new again. And I just felt like I was in the way. Like I can't get in these guys' way. And I ended up bailing, running new water again all day, and ended up having a pretty good day once again. So
I'm thinking Milford. I'm thinking Eufaula. I'm thinking Grand. And there's another classic coming up that you're now qualified for that's kind of smaller, not much grass in it, little bit of history on it. Ray Roberts, like, it sounds like this next classic might be a wheelhouse classic for you, Easton.
it could be. I've already been doing a little bit of research, and I like what I'm finding. So it could be. We'll see.
I mean, it seems like it's kind of the same type of fishery.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been there. I've never laid eyes on the place, but I mean, just kind of what we're been hearing over the last half hour, like I would expect you to be a player.
I don't know if you can say that quite yet, but we'll do our best. But yeah, like I said, and everything I'm hearing so far, and I've never been there either, but all the research I've done in just a little bit of time since Eufaula, I really like what I hear. So
what do you think it is? This is a tough question to answer, but just I'm asking it, answer it as honestly as you can. I don't want it to sound, you're not, what do you think it is that makes you so good, Easton, at 22 years old to compete at this level so quickly, so dominantly?
I think it's that I'm mentally strong. You'll never see me flustered in a tournament day. I don't get spun out. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens. My boat could break down. I'm not going to get spun out. It just doesn't happen. And that's something that my dad has taught me since I was a super young age, is that you got to be mentally tough in this game. And that's the biggest takeaway I have from him. And I want to, thank him for that. He's really taught me the mental side of fishing. And it's 99% of fishing. Like everyone says, it's the mental game. And I think that's where I strive is the mental side of it for sure.
So that's something you have and your dad has worked on with since you were younger? Do you think you're just naturally born a mellow dude who can handle stressful situations?
That is my personality. I am extremely mellow. I don't get worked up too much unless I catch an 8-12 on Eufaula, then I'll get a little worked up. But
you were pretty mellow on that, dude.
But no, I'm even at the classic, I'm just even keel. I just go with the flow. That's definitely my personality. I'm never the guy to be like, oh, look at this. I'm always standing in the shadows, and I think that helps also in fishing. Always a student of the sport. That's another thing. Never think that you know everything, because as soon as you have that mindset, you'll get just train wrecked in fishing every time. So
map guy, pre-practice guy, fish by feel type of guy. How would you describe your style?
I definitely do a lot of research before I go to a place. Most of it is Google Earth. I do tons of Google Earth stuff. Also, Navionics, like master a little bit, just kind of get a layout of the land, I guess. But when I get to a lake, I'm not the guy that's like, I'm gonna pick this creek, I'm just gonna stay in here all day. That's not the way I roll. I go out just with an open mind, and I'm just gonna go wherever my mind takes me. If let's say I start on Channel Swing Bank, I'm flipping along, nothing's happening. I'm just gonna, okay, that's not working. I'm gonna go graph around a flat. Maybe there's a brush ball on that flat. Okay, that's not working. Let's go try a couple docks. That's just the way I roll. And who knows where I'll end up in a practice day. I could end up, 25 miles down the lake. But I think that's just the best way to roll in practice, and that's just what works for me.
One of my favorite anglers to interview is Drew Gill. Recently, over the past couple years, I think there's a lot of similarities between you guys. Granted, he's got a BPT win under his belt, but his analytical mind and the way that he interprets the water is so drastically different around the same type of age, because he started a little bit later on with the scope. So he, I believe, just analyzes it totally different than the guys are pre-scope. Did you start tournament fishing incredibly young, or okay, so you're way pre-scope and learning all that. Talk about, is that something that you've incorporated in, or how does that play into your game?
So I can remember before scoping, fishing like rock piles and stuff. Like, I would fish icons, You know what I mean? I know you fished icons for a long. I mean, you'd roll up to an icon, you'd make 5 casts on an icon, you pull up the trolling and go. Exactly. Yeah. I can remember fishing like that for years before LiveScope came out, and now I'm doing the same exact thing on Eufaula. Like I just pull up to a spot. There's one rock I want to fish. I'm fishing the waypoint, but with LiveScope you can see what's exactly going on that waypoint. You can see if there's a fish there, and obviously LiveScope unlocks a whole new population of fish that we weren't able to fish before. But most of the time I do find myself fishing the same exact way, but LiveScope just makes me, way more efficient when I'm doing that.
I like it. All right, we're going to take our first break of the show. We come back more with Easton Fothergill, part of an exclusive club in 2020 that there might be a couple other familiar names in, and I want to show you what I was able to unearth on this. Also, we'll talk about you being, I would venture to say, the biggest Bassmaster Open favorite in history, heading to one of the upcoming stops in the Bassmaster Opens with the remaining 4 as the leader, the current leader in the Elite Series EQs. So it is BTL on a Tuesday, talking with EQ Lake Eufaula champ Easton Fothergill. Will be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water acres. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Brake Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Brake Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronic setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. any fish, any water.
Welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday, talking with Easton Fothergill. When was the last tournament that you did poorly in that you would say, yeah, that was just an awful day? Serious question. Exactly. That's the answer I was thinking. All right. I talked yesterday in depth with Bo Browning, who I didn't realize you guys were buddies. It just so happened. Like I saw him at Takeoff one morning, was like, hey, I want to get you on the show. Just kind of like his style, how he's been going about things this year in the EQ, sitting in 16th in the points right there on the cusp of making it. And then before the show yesterday, we were talking and he's like, yeah, no, I'm like buddies with Easton. He actually showed me how to smallmouth fish last year. He's like, I went up and spent like 2 weeks up there. But you guys are all part of that juggernaut Montevallo college team.
Mm-hmm. No, he actually lived with us at college. So, I've gotten super close with Bo and he's one of my best friends now. So it's been awesome traveling with him this year for the Open.
Were you recruited pretty hard out of high school? We kind of got into like the recruiting thing and he said that, so the coach that he referred to Coach Crawford as the Nick Saban of bass fishing coaches.
So actually how my partner Nick and I worked, we actually reached out to William, the coach.
Okay.
And we kind of presented him our resume and was like, this is what we have to offer. This is what we've done in high school. So we actually went to him. He didn't come to us.
So he basically had like a 5-star quarterback that walked on. You basically Baker Mayfield Montevallo. Just like walked on.
I guess in a way.
That's a fair assessment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Baker, like he was at Tech and he just like walked on and he's like, oh yeah, now I like to play quarterback for OU. And now he's got a Heisman and a statue outside the stadium with his name on it.
I mean, that's kind of how it went down, I guess. You're right.
But one of the things that I gave a lot of credence to was both on the MLF and Bassmaster side was the development of young anglers and why I am not surprised as to why there are so many guys in their young 20s. It's real easy to say, well, they stare at a live scope. It's a lot harder to say, hey, there's a 10-year project behind the scenes of developing anglers through the high school, through the junior, through the high school, through the college ranks, to where when we used to say, oh, you get thrown to the wolves and the strong survive. Now you're coming out and you're ready. Like, did you feel ready? Like you were thrust into it pretty quick from college to the Bassmaster Classic and all 9 opens. Did you feel prepared over halfway through your journey now into your first season based on what you experienced in high school and college?
I guess I didn't know I feel prepared until I showed up at Okeechobee and I was faced with adversity right away because my best area was that giant crowd that was out there. And, I was thrown into an 80 boat. It's basically fishing against 80 boats in a super tiny area the size of my yard here at the house. And I guess college fishing kind of, it made me ready for that just because I had faced so much adversity in college. I knew how to deal with it. And, I think that's what made me keep a level mind at Okeechobee there. And then, having a good finish there is what gave me the confidence, like, okay, like I can do this against even this field of guys. I think if I didn't have that good of a finish at Okeechobee, my mindset might be a little different. Like, maybe I don't belong, that sort of thing. But having that good finish there was definitely a confidence boost going into the rest of the season.
One of the things that Bassmaster does, they do the high school All-Americans. And in 2020, you were one of the 12 that were selected, which I think is a great program. They do like a combine now. Did you do the combine at all or any of that? Was like
right before my time,
right before your time. But here's the 2020 Bassmaster High School All-Americans. Like, I'm not going to lie. I look at this stuff at the time and you're like, oh yeah, I'm sure these kids like are good fishermen, but you look back on it now and there's a couple guys in this class, including yourself. And you know what? There might have been some other anglers that are doing fantastic things here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, dude, that 2020 class had, Tucker Smith in it, who's in qualifying now and wins everything he touches. And then there you are. So those to me look like senior picks, Easton.
Yeah.
Those look like bass fishing jersey senior picks.
I think that is a senior picture. I think you're right.
But that's pretty cool to see there. It says Easton Fothergill, a senior at Grand Rapids High School, secured 3 wins in tournament season, as well as 1 top 5 ranking and 4 other top 20 rankings in the AYA regional tournament champion title 3 times in 2016, 18, and 19. I mean, dude, you have won everything. And a founding member of the Thunderhawks fishing team, talks about how smart you are in academics, but just another example of youth and junior programs that right now are paying off. I say that, Easton, because there was one youth program when I was in it in 98, and I'm really freaking proud of it. And this was the Bassmaster Casting Kids program. And the only reason I'm sitting here and the only reason that I started fishing with the Assumption Bass Club or anything was because of the Casting Kids program. So it's cool to see these programs work and the guys go from, the high school accolades to the All-American, to the college, to the bracket champs. And now you're leading the points in the EQs, and we're headed to Lake St. Clair and Leech Lake in Minnesota, which is okay. So I was up there for the Dick Hiley St. Jude and all. In all accounts, like, you and your dad are like Leech Lake legends. Like, you haven't launched your boat and not come in with 26 pounds in the past 9 years from everything I've heard. Is that fair, or is this a slightly exaggerated legend of the Fothergills on Leech?
It's a little exaggerated, but no.
Not totally?
I've spent a lot of time out there and have had some success out there, but yeah, I'm super excited for that Open to come. And it's going to be, because I was talking to Joey Nania after Logan Martin, and he was talking to me about how he was driving by all of his little sneak holes and just like, how did he find that? How did he find that? How did he find that? I'm really curious to see how much I'll be like that on Leech, because, obviously being from here, I have a lot of what I would call sneak holes. I'm just excited to see how many of them are found during that week.
A fair assessment on that fishery, that if you haven't been there before, it's going to be very difficult to formulate a game plan based on species, weather, and pressure.
All 3 of those are going to be, factors. It is one of the, you wouldn't think it, but it's one of the biggest lakes wave wise. When it blows, it competes with any Great Lakes I've ever been on. It gets like freaky big. But yeah, there's largemouth and smallmouth in there, big ones of each. It's, you can, cashing a check with largemouth to be super easy, cashing a check with smallmouth to be super easy. I'm thinking to win, you will need some smallmouth, I'm thinking, to win, but it could definitely be a mixed bag. Grab a couple big largemouth and fill your limit with smallmouth, or vice versa. But it's never seen pressure like it's about to see. I mean, there's going to be opens guys out there all summer long, and then you get the 5 days of practice, which, everywhere we go, you end up, you show up for practice and you're like, oh, this isn't bad. And then by the time tournament comes, you're like, dang, this sucks. So
is that even worse there? Because in my experience up north, even in Minnesota, like, if you get it in front of something, it freaking eats it. And like, I'll have never been up there until the first day of practice. So I'm going to catch the first couple fish that bite. And 99% of guys hadn't been up there. Like, those fish snap, but is that a deal where it's going to just get progressively worse and be an absolute grind fest by the time Thursday hits?
So Leech is a very interesting lake. Leech is not like any other Minnesota lake. It's like it's in its own category. Even when I fished it like 8 years ago, and like hardly anyone even knew there was bass in there, they still were super hard to catch. And it's something that I've talked with a bunch of guys from Minnesota. None of us understand why that is, but the largemouth and smallmouth, I mean, more the smallmouth, they're super hard to catch, and you could be around so many of them and not get a bite and just think you're not even around them. So it's really interesting in that sense, but the pressure, just like always, will take a toll, but the guys will figure it out, and there'll still be some big bags caught for sure.
And those are the Mille Lacs strain of smallmouth too, aren't they?
I believe so.
They're
like
on that, big tankers if you're able to friggin' land on them.
There's giants in there, no doubt. Largemouth and smallmouth both. There's 7-pounders of each.
How comfortable are you on St. Clair? We had there in a couple weeks right after the 4th of July weekend. That should be in your wheelhouse as well.
I've never been there before, but everything I see and watch, it's a live scope smallmouth deal, which it's right in my wheelhouse. So I'm super excited to get there.
And then we hit the Mississippi River. Comfortable, familiar with that? I mean, I know pools 4 and 5 in Minnesota get a lot of pressure. We're going to just go down and be out of La Crosse. You have some time spent on those pools as well.
I've spent, not since high school, I haven't been there. I think I fished 3 high school events there, but that was before I went to school in Alabama and got so much river experience. I'm excited. I think I'll look at that place way different now that I've spent 4 years on the Coosa River. I'm really excited.
And then wrap things up with spotted bass. You mentioned on the Coosa River, it's a different strain of spotted bass there at Hartwell, but comfortable with the spotties, or I guess you could run up the Seneca or the Tougaloo and target the large heads to wrap things out on Hartwell in early October.
Hartwell is, I've said it since my freshman year of college, that's my favorite lake in the whole country.
Me too.
I love that lake. It's, if you want to go get a bite, most times of the year, that's the place to go just to get a bite. Like it's so fun. I love that lake.
So feeling good. I mean, it's fishing. You have no idea what's going to happen at the end, but with 4 left, sitting in the catbird seat, let me pull up the Open EQ standings. It's a really cool mix. Like I said, there's a bunch of guys at the top, all 30. There's over 35 guys that have a shot at making this thing, but you have one of the hottest anglers going right now in Dakota Ebear. Evan Kung slipped a little bit, a legend in Cody Meyer. Like, yeah, that dude's not going to slip. Ty Faber, there's Tucker Smith. That would be crazy if 2 of the anglers from that 2020 class, both of you guys are currently in position. Andrew Loberg, West Coast, Jack York, a guide at Lake Fork. He's another young dude. I just had him on a guide day for BTL. You can go back in the archives and listen to that. And then Matt Messer in 10th. And then you've got some veterans and some dudes that are, it's a really cool mix right now that I'm excited to. I'm out of it. Yes. Look, you got to scroll, Easton. You got to keep scrolling, like, to find me. Like, there I am. I'm in 68th. I was happy I moved up from like 90th at this past one at Eufaula, but I'm just looking for the old classic berth now. But do you look at points? Are you a points looker? Are you a strategy guy, or you just go out and just let it shake out where it may?
I just go out and try to catch the biggest 5 I can every day. That's the way I take it. I'm not stressing that I'm in the first place or anything. I just know that I got to keep working hard and, just catch the biggest ones I can catch.
Sponsorship wise, are you kind of whatever the college deal is, or do you have any like individual sponsors that have jumped on board, or how does that whole thing work with the dynamic and the?
So that jersey and boat, everything that I'm running right now, that is all the Dynamic and Bassmaster sponsors.
Yep.
that I'm promoting this year. But for next year, I'm definitely already getting the wheel rolling on that, just because I know if I make the elites, obviously I'll need, plenty of sponsorship help to make that happen. But if I don't make the elites, I still want to do the opens again to make another run at it. So, and there's big financial move you got to make there. So regardless what happens, I'm gonna need the sponsorships, and I know that, and I'm already getting the ball rolling on that. So definitely something I'm working on this summer.
You like that part of it, or you just want to go fish?
I do just want to go fish, but I know that the business side of it is just as important as the fishing side of it. So I'm trying to get that up and rolling. So
I feel like there's a very select few of anglers who can get away with like a little bit more fishing than the market, like very select few, and you might fall into that category to where they're like, yeah, I just would kind of let Easton do his thing. Like he'll let the rod talk.
I guess time will tell with that. I don't know if I'm there yet. Maybe in the future.
Would you say you have like a mentor or anything like in the industry, or anybody you're bouncing ideas off of?
I do have some. I guess a couple of them right now are actually elite rookies, Kyle Patrick and Wesley Gore. Those are 2 of my really good buddies, and they're both kind of, they're giving me tips and where to work and, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah. Don't let Kyle Patrick give you a nickname. You got to come up with something better than the fruit bat. Like, just stick to the sponsorship stuff. No nicknames from Kyle Patrick.
But no, it's been, even with the mental side of it in the opens, they're just making sure I'm staying level-minded, and they're really helping me with the mental side of, just don't look at the points and just work hard. They're kind of drilling that in my head. So it's really cool to have them on my side and helping me out.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to get in here, Easton?
I don't think so, man.
All right, dude, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for jumping on BTL. I have a feeling over the next years you might be on the show a time or 2 more. if you're willing to come on.
Oh, I'm always willing. Thank you for having me, man.
All right. Thanks, Dean. All right. That is Easton Fothergill, the most recent winner. And man, you talk to some guys, and like I said, he reminds me a little bit of like a Jordan Lee, just in he just naturally gets things. And then you talk to people who are around him and they're like, it's kind of frustrating to be around those guys because things make sense to them that don't make sense to 99% of other anglers. But really good interview. Looking forward to watching his career as it progresses on the Bassmaster Open EQ series, and then the Elite Series and the Bassmaster Classic. So that's all we got for today. Thanks for jumping on. We'll be back, same place, same time tomorrow. We'll talk to everyone. Later.